Apple's iPhone 14 design is finally finalized, and we're starting to get a bunch of new leaks and rumors pointing to the features that we should be expecting throughout the lineup, which by the way is now missing the iPhone mini. Yes, you heard that correctly. Multiple accurate sources like Ross Young are now 100% certain that the mini will be gone from the iPhone 14 lineup, but don't worry, a totally new iPhone model will be replacing it, and it's actually a genius plan. But before I get into that, I want to go through some terrible news for the iPhone 14 that we literally just got the other day, and I'm afraid that there will be a lot of upset customers if this actually does happen. According to Min Chi Kuo, who now finally has a Twitter account, which has been verified by both Mac Rumors and 9to5Mac, only the two iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max models will actually be getting the new A16 Bionic chip this year. Now, this is likely going to be a huge disappointment to a lot of people, and this is such a big deal that people on Twitter are starting to question Ming's credibility because this seems so odd. But the big question that remains is, why in the world would Apple do this, and how do they think that they could actually get away with it? Well, the major point I want to make is that for the first time ever, the current iPhone 13 lineup features a clear performance difference between the regular models and the Pro models, with two different versions of the A15 chip, one with a 4-core GPU for the regulars and one with a 5-core for the Pro models. This basically shows us that Apple is willing to use performance as a differentiating feature between the low and high-end models, so this year they could take it even further. But the even bigger problem is that it seems like for the first time ever, there won't be any performance upgrade going from an iPhone 13 to a 14, but that's actually not true. I personally believe that if Apple does stick to the A15 chip on the regular 14 models, they're gonna give it the faster 5-core version, which is currently exclusive to the Pro models. And this would actually make the 14 an upgrade compared to the 13 in terms of graphics performance. And this actually makes a lot of sense because the brand new iPhone SE now comes with the 4-core version of the A15, so the regular 14 is gonna get the 5-core version. And then with that said, it seems like Apple gave the iPad Air 5 the M1 chip instead of the A15 just to help the supply of A15 chips in the future iPhone 14 models. But another huge point I want to make is that the A15 chip is actually more than enough for the regular iPhone 14s, and here is why. First of all, not everyone upgrades every single year, so people with older iPhones won't really care that much that it's the same A15 chip from the iPhone 13 lineup, since it's actually still crazy fast, and it's still gonna be the more powerful 5-core GPU version. And on top of that, Android smartphone chips are still way behind what Apple has to offer. For example, there was a ton of hype over Qualcomm's new Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chip, but it turned out to be a massive disappointment in terms of the performance and battery life usage. We even did a gaming test comparing the iPad Pro to Samsung's brand new Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra, which features this new chip, and it was a huge disappointment, not even being able to sustain a solid 60 FPS in Genshin Impact within that massive 14.6-inch chassis, while the iPad Pro averaged higher than 100 FPS. And then making things worse, Geekbench revealed that Samsung's GOS, or Game Optimizing Service, was unfairly targeting benchmark apps and only giving the chips full performance in those apps, while drastically slowing down the chip's performance in real-world apps like games to help keep the temperatures down. And some people even leaked the actual performance with GOS on during benchmarks, and these chips get much slower, showing how they actually compare to Apple's chips while in real workflows. So because of this, Apple's A15 chip is untouchable for another year at least. And now before I jump into some actually good news and brand new leaks concerning Apple's iPhone 14 lineup, I want to make my final point about why only the Pro models will be getting the A16 chip this year. First of all, Apple seems to be wanting to sell more Pro models, and this makes sense because that'll help them bring their average sales price up, which is very important to their investors. And the second reason is that all of the main sources, including Ming-Chi Kuo and Ross Young, fully believe that the new iPhone lineup will now introduce a brand new iPhone 14 Max model, which will pack essentially the same base feature set as the regular 14, but now with a larger 6.7-inch display. And in my opinion, the regular 14 will start at $799 with a $100 price jump up to the larger 14 Max, and then you'll have to pay an extra $300 for the Pro and Pro Max models for each corresponding size. And yes, that means that the Pro models will now be $100 more expensive compared to last year, and I'll explain why in just a minute, but the main point I want to make is that now that Apple for the first time ever has two models with a larger 6.7-inch display, they need to make it very clear and have clear distinctions and differences between the regular 14 Max model and the more expensive 14 Pro Max so that users can easily tell the difference. For example, we're already 100% certain that only the Pro models will be coming with the new dual punch hole cutout on the display, while the regular 14 models, including the brand new 14 Max, will still have a notch. And to make things worse, we've been getting reports that the lower end 14 models will have the same display bezels as the current 13, while the 14 Pro models will get thinner bezels which look much nicer. And just yesterday, Majin Buu released these new images of the dual cutout display, and it honestly looks really nice in my opinion. And this user even lined up the cutouts with the current notch design, and it's clear that Apple has a real winner with these new 14 Pro models. But on top of that, Apple is planning to have even more differences, like Ross Young confirming that 120Hz Pro Motion will once again be exclusive to the Pro models, so the regular 14s will still be sticking to a 60Hz display. And now, the last point I want to make for why Apple is only giving the new A16 chip to the Pro models is that Apple's costs for this chip will be quite a bit higher than the A15. First of all, TSMC has already announced that they're raising prices for their best and latest process nodes, bringing costs up. Going further, Ming-Chi Kuo believes that the new A16 chips will use faster and more expensive LPDDR5 RAM, and there are rumors that the A16 will be the first chip to use TSMC's new expensive 3D fabric technology. But the real big problem, in my opinion, is that there have been some real supply chain issues that are putting pressure on Apple's profit margins, so it makes sense to put cheaper chips on the lower end models while forcing users to pay more for these brand new expensive chips. And making things even worse, Shenzhen, China, which houses the biggest Apple product factory in the world, has just gone into full lockdown, which will add to these supply problems. So with that said, maybe Apple just can't afford to take the profit margin hit by giving the lower end iPhones the latest chip, especially since inflationary and commodity price pressures have gotten even worse over the past couple of months. But now, with the bad news out of the way, let's finally get into the good news. All iPhone 14 models are expected to get a full redesign with protruding flat glass on both the front and the back, as well as the possibility of getting a USB-C port, but that's still uncertain. And the iPhone 14 Pro models are gonna be incredible this year, with that new beautiful dual punch design, as well as the titanium chassis, the new 48 megapixel main camera on the back for shooting 8K video, and of course the new A16 chip. But as for the iPhone 14, it could have even better battery life thanks to a new, more efficient 5G chip. And there are some rumors that Apple will finally be selling a new, smaller smaller 30-watt power adapter using GaN technology, which of course you'll have to buy separately. And to be honest, that's about it for the good news. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, go ahead and click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one, and definitely check out one of those two right over there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.